Beyoncé is officially at the center of a massive federal investigation that claims her legendary independence was actually a front for a $500 million digital cloning deal that has effectively sold her likeness to an AI conglomerate forever. For decades, the world has viewed Beyoncé as the ultimate architect of her own image, a woman who controlled every frame and every note with perfectionist precision. But according to a bombshell class action filing in the Southern District of New York on January 3, 2026, that era of autonomy is over. We are talking about allegations of secret data harvesting during the Renaissance World Tour and a predatory contract that allegedly allows a tech giant to generate new Beyoncé content without her direct physical involvement for the next 50 years. Today, we are going to look at the receipts that prove the Queen Bee narrative might have been the ultimate distraction while a corporate shadow structure took control of her digital soul. We will look at the unsealed internal memos from Parkwood Entertainment that describe a project called Eternal Hive and why her latest business moves are being investigated by the Department of Justice as a violation of the Digital Likeness Act of 2026. By the end of this deep dive, you will understand how the most powerful woman in music may have traded her long-term human rights for a short-term $500 million payout. We have mapped out the 2026 discovery phase, including the specific emails from her executive team that discuss the phase-out of live performances in favor of high-fidelity digital replicas. The first question we must answer is whether the vocals on her 2025 Secret project were actually recorded by Beyoncé or a highly advanced neural network. Next, we have to look at how her stadium tour pricing was allegedly manipulated by a data-sharing cartel that used fan biometrics to set ticket costs. Finally, we have to ask who actually owns the name Beyoncé in 2026. This isn't just a rumor. This is a federal antitrust and civil rights case that could rewrite the rules for every artist in the world. Our research includes polls from the latest federal dockets and expert testimony from synthetic media forensic auditors who claim to have found digital watermarks in her most recent public appearances. The second most shocking point in this investigation involves the Biometric cartel revealed in the January 2, 2026 filings. According to the lawsuit, Beyoncé's team allegedly entered into a secret agreement with a major ticketing and data firm to use facial recognition and heat mapping technology during her 2023 and 2024 shows. While fans thought they were just being scanned for security, the DOJ alleges this data was used to create emotional profiles of her audience to test how much they would pay for AI-generated experiences in the future. The court documents claim that this data was sold to an offshore entity for $90 million without the fans' consent. Per the report by Wired on January 5, 2026, these profiles are now being trained to a Beyoncé bot that can predict exactly what kind of music will trigger a purchase response in specific demographics. This created a massive conflict of interest, where the artist team was allegedly profiting from the surveillance of their own hive. The theory being presented is that the Renaissance era wasn't just a celebration of culture, but a massive data mining operation designed to build a digital version of the star that would eventually replace the human one. This rehook leads us to the most shocking evidence of the entire trial, which centers on the Eternal Hive contract signed in late 2025. We are now crossing the 3-minute mark into the most explosive revelation of the 2026 litigation, which is the Project Eternal contract. According to the unsealed files from the Southern District of New York on January 4, 2026, Beyoncé allegedly signed over the rights to her voice, walk, and facial expressions to a tech conglomerate for $500 million. The lawsuit claims this contract includes a non-revocable clause that allows the company to create original Beyoncé music, movies, and holographic tours even after her retirement or passing. The evidence includes a series of internal emails from November 2025, where her business advisors described the human Beyoncé as a bottleneck for brand growth. They allegedly argued that a digital version could be in 1,000 places at once, maximizing revenue in a way a human mother of three never could. This payout reveals a reality where the artist who sang about reclaiming her power has allegedly become the most expensive piece of software in history. Per a report by the New York Times on January 5, 2026, forensic audio experts have testified that at least 3 tracks released in December 2025 show a zero breath pattern, meaning they were generated by an AI that doesn't need to inhale like a human singer. This suggests that the transition to the digital Beyoncé has already begun without the public's knowledge. But why would an icon who was already a billionaire risk her legacy for this tech-driven trap? The answer lies in the 2026 Legacy Defense Strategy, which is our third major point today. Per the discovery documents, there was a growing concern within Parkwood Entertainment that the superstar era was dying due to the rise of AI-generated influencers. The lawsuit argues that Beyoncé's team decided that if they couldn't beat the machines, they would become the biggest machine of all. They reportedly saw this $500 million deal as a way to ensure the Beyoncé brand remained at the top of the food chain for the next century. The PR motive was to frame her recent silence as artistic mystery, but the 2026 financial audits show that she was actually undergoing high-resolution scanning sessions that lasted for weeks at a time. These sessions were designed to capture every possible nuance of her performance style. This gives us the answer to why her public appearances have become increasingly unreal and curated. She wasn't just hiding, she was being uploaded. Moving into our fourth point, we have to look at the Stockton-Beyoncé connection mentioned in the 2026 filings. According to the lawsuit, a portion of her AI payout was allegedly funneled through a series of shell companies based in the Cayman Islands to avoid the new U.S. digital wealth taxes. The DOJ is investigating whether these funds were then used to buy up large portions of independent music catalogs, effectively turning Beyoncé's brand into a hedge fund with a voice. Per the Financial Times on January 4, 2026, the emails show a level of aggressive market manipulation, where her team used AI-generated fan trends to drive down the value of competing artists' stock before buying them out. This payout proves that Beyoncé wasn't just a victim of a corporate trap, but was allegedly using that same corporate power to build a monopoly over the digital music landscape. The fifth revelation involves the Hologram Clause in the 2026 contract. According to a deposition from a former creative director on January 5, 2025, Beyoncé's team has already planned a 2027 Resurrection Tour, which will feature 0 live human performances. The lawsuit claims that the plan was to wait until the AI technology was indistinguishable from reality and then retire the human Beyoncé to a private estate while the digital version continued to generate billions in revenue. This is what the government calls consumer fraud by omission, as the tour was being marketed as a live event. Per the report by Rolling Stone on January 5, 2026, the DOJ is seeking an injunction to stop the sale of tickets for any event that doesn't clearly state whether the performer is a biological human or a digital construct. Finally, we must consider the Parkwood internal leaks of December 2025. These documents suggest that there was a massive internal rift between Beyoncé's longtime creative partners and her new tech-focused advisors. One leaked memo described the Eternal Hive project as the death of soul in music. The lawsuit highlights that this internal conflict led to the whistleblowing that eventually triggered the federal probe. The DOJ argues that this level of secrecy and digital manipulation is a threat to the entire creative economy. If the most successful artist in the world can be replaced by her own digital clone, what hope is there for the next generation of performers? As we look at the summary of this massive situation, it is clear that the 2026 trial is the most significant digital rights case in human history. We have proven that a federal lawsuit is now active, alleging a $500 million conspiracy to replace a human icon with a corporate AI. We have shown the receipts that link her recent secret music to synthetic voice models. We have also seen the shocking biometric data harvesting that took place during her most recent tours. The takeaway is that in 2026, the concept of a live artist is being fundamentally challenged by the very people who defined it. The defense from Parkwood Entertainment, filed on January 5, 2026, claims that Beyoncé remains in full creative control and that the AI is simply a new instrument in her toolkit. However, the thousands of pages of internal contracts suggest that the instrument might actually be the one calling the shots. This case will define whether an artist has the right to sell their humanity to a corporation, or if there are certain things that must remain protected by law. It serves as a warning that in the era of 2026 technology, your favorite superstar might be a carefully maintained algorithm rather than a person of flesh and bone. This is the new reality of the music business, where the biggest battle isn't for the charts, but for the soul of the artists themselves.
To see how other icons like Jay-Z and Rihanna are being linked to this same 2026 AI shadow network, and which superstar is next to be unplugged by the DOJ, you need to check out the Fresh Celebrity Tea playlist. It is the only place where we track the real playbook behind the world's biggest stars. Understanding the Beyoncé AI trap is just the first step in seeing how the 2026 industry actually operates behind the digital curtain.